Hello and welcome to the Overly Animated Podcast, where we take animation seriously. We talk everything animation here, including Mirai, which we'll be getting into right now. I'm Justin Cummings, and today I'm joined by John McKenna.
Hi, everybody.
Today we are talking about the new animated film Mirai. Also, John, did you save your ticket stub? Was it called Mirai or was it called Mirai of the Future?
It said Mirai of the Future on mine, but I didn't have a ticket stub.
Okay, so I know different countries have been calling it different things. Mirai, I think, is the official name that they're going by. It's the newest film from G Kids and from Mamoru Hosoda. You can find all the information about Overly Animated on our website, overlyanimated.com, or by searching Overly Animated on iTunes or your favorite podcatcher. We're also on YouTube, youtube.com/overlyanimated. John, it's been a long time since I've been on a podcast.
Yeah, it's fine. It's great to hear your voice again.
Well, thank you. It's great to be back. So, before we do anything else, John, I need to know, did you see the movie in English or in Japanese?
Despite the fact that I have now grown to love subbed anime, and given that, despite the fact that I've grown to love subbed anime, I did watch this as a dub because I tend to trust dubs when they're in movies, so I just went with that.
Was subbed an option for the movie theater, or was it only the dub playing in theaters?
Actually both.
Okay.
But for me, it was like the sub was at 7:00 and the dub. No, sorry. The dub was at 7:00. The sub was in a different theater at 8:00. So
Okay.
I just picked the 7:00 showing.
Yeah, I don't know which theaters are getting which versions. I saw this as a review copy about a month ago, and right back then they were only giving out the sub. So I have not seen the dub. So you can kind of speak to that a little bit if you get a chance. So we've seen the same movie, but you saw it in English. I saw the Japanese, and I heard about this movie because I was looking up upcoming films in 2018, and I saw this on the list, and I had never heard of it. So I was like, okay, what is it? And it's from, as I said, Mamoru Hosoda. I hope I get his name right. He directed, most famously, I'd say, Girl Who Leapt Through Time, which we did a podcast on, Michelle and I, and that can be found in the description below. And he's also directed Wolf Children and Summer Wars, Boy and the Beast. He's done, what else did he do? Oh, Digimon the movie, that's the other one. And
Digimon.
So,
and he also
did what?
He also did a One Piece movie, Baron Omatsuri and the Secret Island.
Huh.
Yeah, he directed that.
Nice. I did not know that.
And Beatrice reviewed Wolf Children. That's also on the Overly Animated movie channel as well.
Awesome. I will talk to Dylan, make sure that's also included in the description below, so our wonderful listeners can go hear those if they have not yet. And the review of this film that I did a few days ago will also be down below. So that is enough housekeeping. Let's actually talk about this movie. We're going to start spoiler-free for like the first 5-10 minutes, and then we're going to get into spoilers. So if you haven't seen this movie yet, I highly, highly, highly encourage you to watch it before listening to the spoiler part. If anything we say interests you, go watch this movie. It's genuinely fantastic. Might be my movie of the year, and it's been a really tough year for movies. So, first off, John, I want to know, what did you think of Mirai? You just saw it like an hour ago. What did you think?
It was so charming. I absolutely loved it. The kid, Kun, who's the big brother, he is way too adorable. He's hilarious. He's like the prototypical big brother who doesn't want the baby sister in his life, which is fantastic. The animation, especially given that a lot of it was hand drawn, just really nice. It's like you're watching a Miyazaki movie from the 80s in the best possible way. It's, there was some great humor, great gags, but it had some really good sort of like lessons about family and about taking things as they are and about taking things as they are, learning to and all that, like learning to be parents. There's some good moments in there. honestly, if you really get a chance, if you get a chance to see it, I recommend it. It's just one of those really fun, lighthearted, heartwarming movies that anyone can really watch and have a great time with it. So yeah, definitely go see it if you can.
I for I just realized you haven't even given a basic synopsis of this film. It is. Would you consider this science fiction, fantasy? Like, where would you classify this?
I'd put this in the fantasy column, but
It's
it
one of those movies where you don't know if what you're watching is real or the protagonist's imagination because it could really go either way. And the movie doesn't want you to know. It wants you to live in that kind of sense of whimsy and charm. Like you said, John, this movie is just so full of charm. It's about a little boy named Kuhn, and for the first 20 minutes you would be I I knew the plot, basically. I knew the synopsis. And for the first 20 minutes, I'm like, is this about him or is it about the parents? Because the beginning of the movie, I don't want to call it mundane because it's really good, but the conceit of the film doesn't appear for like 20, 30 minutes, where basically we just see a normal family life in Japan. And this little boy gets a baby sister, and at first he's excited, and then he's like, my parents are ignoring me because there's a little infant in the house. And the first 20, 30 minutes is just charming family life, and you're just invested in this family, and then the film starts to kind of unravel and reveal itself, and this part's not a spoiler because it's literally the title of the film. He finds his sister as a teenager from the future come back in time and needs his help. And that's kind of just where the film launches from there, and it becomes this magical journey that and props to the marketing for this film because I kind of knew what was going to happen, but they did a really good job at keeping a lot of the plot secret. And it really does. And because of that, it's kind of hard to talk about the last 45 minutes of this movie because pretty much the trailers only showed stuff from a very specific like 10 minutes and then like the climax. They left
and
out a lot of the movie in the trailer, which a lot of American movies just show you everything. But like there
it,
were some plot points that I wanted to mention in the article that I kind of got into, but I'm like, no, any more would ruin this movie. You have to see this for yourself.
yeah, and what a last 45 minutes it was
Oh my
too.
gosh, it's so good. Like I genuinely just expected this movie to be a fun romp about this little boy with his baby sister grown up as a teenager, come back, and teenage Mirai is in this movie for maybe 15, 20 minutes.
Tops.
Like,
And she's not even the only one that sort of time traveled too. It
there's
became a
there's like
recurring thing.
there's like four different alternate versions of characters, and I don't want to say who any of them are besides Mirai yet. Once we get into spoilers, then we can talk about it. But yeah, like this movie kind of builds itself on this, and so if you go and they're expecting 90 minutes of teenage Mirai, you're gonna be disappointed. But I think what it offers instead is possibly even better. And like I said, I fell in love with The Girl Who Leapt Through Time. It's one of my favorite animated movies of all time. And so when I heard about this movie, I was like, oh my gosh, he's doing a time travel story again. And in some regards, it's so similar to Girl Who Leapt Through Time in that magical fantasy combined with mundane environment. Like that kind of juxtaposition of fantastical and everyday. But on the flip side, it's really different because Girl Who Leapt Through Time, its time travel is definitively real. Like there is no denying it. Whereas this movie, it could be in his imagination, but I don't know. And I think that's what sets it apart for me.
I totally agree. And there's moments where it walks that line so
Mm-hmm.
well for a lot of scenes. And I was like, okay, this is and half time you're like, okay, this is definitely his imagination. And then you're like, is it? Wait a minute. Huh?
Yeah, you're like,
uh,
but it has to be. It's one of those.
It's like one of
I'm
those
trying.
Rugrats. It's like one of those scenes in Rugrats where they think they're on the moon, but they're actually in a garage, but everything still happens.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of a really good comparison where it's like, oh, it was all just, magic. Like, it was all just pretend and never really happened. Like, it was one of those, it was all a dream, but then one thing from the dream world is happened in reality, and it's like, but was it? Like, there's a scene like that where it's like the one little thing where I'm like, did this happen? And so I think I'm glad it doesn't give you a definitive answer. I'm glad it leaves you wondering because it gives you that childlike sense of whimsy. Like, this movie is just whimsical. Like, this movie is just so fun.
Yeah, and when you leave it open like that, it just pulls you in even all the more because you're not you start connecting with the characters, Kun especially a ton when they do that. I love when they have that convention in movies and TV. It makes it work so well.
Like, I connected with Kun eventually, but the first people I connected with in the movie definitely were the parents, which they were. I'm actually looking at the Wikipedia page now. And I'm like, they were never named. They're just dad and mom.
Yeah, that's right.
What did you think about the parents?
Oh, that poor dad. uh, I love the parent. I mean, I like the parents. The dad is like you could tell the dad is like this. I like how it's a bit different because the dad is the one that's he's the stay-at-home parent. He's the one trying to do everything. You could see how he's just like frantically trying to do
He's like
everything.
trying to learn it so fast.
Yeah, because
And
apparently, because when I guess when they raised Coon, it was the mom's job. But even she admits it's like, well, you were fawning over me the whole time. So it's like he was caring for her while she was caring for the baby. But now he's caring for the baby a lot more because she wants to go back to work and have her career, and he can stay at home because he's a stay-at-home architect. But you could tell it's like the thing is like he's trying so hard, but at the same time it's like she's trying to say like, oh no, you're not doing it right. You have to do it at this time. You have to do it at that time. You have to put the bottle in a little more.
And at the same time, it's like she's right because she's done this before, but at the same time, you can tell like the stress feels really relatable, and the drama of it felt really relatable.
Oh yeah,
And it's like it's it was one of those things where I'm like, this is just it's so normal, and that just normal drama juxtaposed with the rest of the film is like it's just night and day. And I think the fact that this film manages to do the whimsical and the everyday so well together just is like, honestly, if this movie is not up for best animated feature at the Oscars, I will riot. Like,
it might.
this
Do they put Japanese anime films up for that award? I thought this would
oh
be for best
yes.
international or best
No,
foreign or
that
something.
because that sorry, it's actually that award is for best foreign language film.
Oh,
So although the sub version could be up for that, the dub can be up for best animated. Um, Spirited Away won best animated feature.
oh,
It's
nice.
not just limited to Western. Usually there's at least one anime film nominated, even if it doesn't win. It's kind of almost a obligatory. I want to say Your Name was nominated. I could be wrong. I know the big one the year before, The Wind Rises was nominated. That's
Wind
the one I'm
Rises, yeah.
thinking of.
Yeah.
Um,
I agree with you. I'd love this to be nominated. I would love this to win, primarily because I want to see the Disney Empire come to an end at some point.
I
And
mean,
I'll
Incredibles
beg it
2
on
is gonna win, but
it's this or Isle of Dogs. I don't know which one I want to root for more. I think I want to root for this one more.
and I think the reason I want to root for this too is because you mentioned you compared Hosoda's work to Miyazaki. It's interesting. He was supposed to direct Howl's Moving Castle originally.
Wow.
They wanted him to do it after just doing Digimon, and he couldn't come up with a concept that the bosses liked, so they just went with Miyazaki instead. And so basically, he was supposed to be the next Miyazaki, and then he went off on his own, and basically now is the next Miyazaki. I'd argue, like
Well,
he hasn't.
Miyazaki's still around.
Well, I mean, he is, but like I feel like the torch has been passed, especially with this movie of this coming of age story, this whimsy, this is it real, is it not real? Like, to me, this is his most Ghibli film, but it's distinctly his at the same time. And I think that this kind of just is gonna. He's yet to do a bad movie. Like, his worst movie was Digimon, and
And it's
even
Digimon.
that, yeah, it's like, the expectation is so different, and it's already a different franchise, and this was just such a different, just everything about this movie is just amazing, and I want to get into spoilers
Yeah.
because
This
I love
felt
this
a
movie
lot.
so
This felt
much.
a lot like Wolf Children. I remember seeing that when I was in college. It was. This felt very, very similar in a good way. Like you could tell. I could tell. I was like, "Yep, this
I
is
mean,
definitely
he's got
it's
that
Hosoda's work."
style. He has heartfelt down pat. So let's get into the movie itself, like the back half of the movie and all of the details. So, spoiler alert! Spoiler alert! Spoiler alert! Spoiler alert! Um, this movie's about. We're about to talk spoilers. Please, if you have not seen this movie and anything we said interests you, go see this movie. It's genuinely amazing. Okay, spoilers. So, John, give me your spoiler-filled opinion of this movie.
My spoiler-filled opinion in this movie. Well, the best again. I mentioned how the animation was the best part of it, and I think where it stuck out the most, there were two instances. One is whenever the real world and the fantasy world merged, you
Mm-hmm.
had this camera sweep, and it went, and you could see like Kun was stationary, and then the camera turned, and all of a sudden we were in either it was a jungle, it was a rainforest, it was a train station, it was it was it the dark hole train to Lonely Land, which
Mm-hmm. Oh
maybe
my gosh,
did
the train station scene is just ooh,
it
it's
was beautiful. Like and the angling was perfect. Like you could see how small he was compared to in that giant station where everybody was walking around. It's like it was really great. And also the train tunnel too. Like I got
mhm.
dizzy from that, which
It's a
is
beautiful scene, but at the same time, and this is the highest compliment I can give a movie. There are because the director even said, I want people as young as Kuhn himself watching this movie. It's a family movie. It's
mm,
about family. There's going to be some 4-year-olds who watch this movie and are forever scarred by the train station scene. And in 15 years, are going to be like, remember that train station scene? Yeah. Like, we had those when we were kids. Like, we had, the Willy Wonka tunnel scene. We had Mufasa's death. Like, scenes like that stuck with us. Pink Elephants on Parade. Like, scenes from kids' movies that were like, these are great, but really terrified us as kids. And I feel this is going to be that scene for a whole new generation, and I can't wait till they are old enough to articulate that because I think we just watched a generation get scarred, and I'm here for it. Like I'm
scar your
glad I
children
know
early.
what's
That's the
coming
moral of the
next.
story, kids.
Like kids, like it's okay to have tension. It's okay to have it's a terrifying scene. Like
It
it's
is.
upsetting. Like but in the best way. Like it's a great climax. And you were talking about the camera sweep and the film. This film is so well structured in that every time Kuhn goes into the garden, because the way they built this house, first off, is beautiful. It's like 5 stories. We basically follow up and down the staircase, and it like builds up. There's like a garden in the middle.
It's an architect's house.
It's built like a stage play. Like honestly, everything moves
It's a
from
house you
left to
kind of
right.
it's a house you kind of expect an architect to have. Big glass
It
wall, big
is.
window walls, middle it's like square and rectangular and junk.
It's it's such a interesting location, and I feel like you could do a whole thing about the language of the house and how the house plays in as a character. But every time Kuhn goes into the garden, something magical is about to happen because that's the
Hmm.
only place where he sees all these magical things. And the first one we get is the dog, and oh my gosh, I love this scene so much.
That I don't know,
Ooh,
like I don't know who
sees the
I don't know who the voice actor was for the in the Japanese version, but I have to but what was his what's his name? Oh my god, what is the guy's name in
it's Crispin Freeman did it in the English version.
Crispin Freeman? Okay, yeah. Crispin Free
Whoa, wait. Roy Harper from
Roy
Young
Harper.
Justice was really. I need to see the dub now.
Yeah, Roy
Just to
Hart. Yeah, there he
how
was.
it's really.
Yeah, Roy Harper he was fantastic. It was I was like, who is that guy? I was like, oh my god, it's the dog.
So yeah, Coon finds this like raggedy middle-aged man who's it's literally the family dog as a person talking about how like, well, I was the spoiled one until you came along. And
Yeah, no one
this is
thinks
one of
about the
those.
dog in the family. No one thinks, but it's like, well, the
And
dog was the first one.
seeing the dog as like the scruffy vagabond was just fantastic. And then he talks about like wanting better food, and then later in the film, Coon tells his mom like the dog wants different food, and the dog like perks his ears up, and I'm like, is the dog a person? Like, what's going on? But and this was in
It,
the trailer, and this was one of the scenes in the trailer that I was like, what is happening? Where he yanks the
the dog's
person's tail
tail.
off, puts it on himself, and turns into little dog Coon,
And
and
I saw
it's
that. I was
so
like, bam,
adorable.
wolf children. It's like, there we
Yeah,
go.
I'm like, wolf children? But that scene where he's running around the house as the dog, and like his parents are like, "Oh, you're being the dog, how cute!" And he's
No,
like,
no,
"It's
it was. I think they actually thought. No, I think they were dressed him as a dog. I think they thought he was. I think they thought he was the dog, like the actual dog. Because they said, "Yuko, don't run around. Stop running around. What's gotten into him?"
yeah, like it's and again, it's like what is actually happening?" And I have no idea. I have no clue how that scene actually functioned in reality. I only know how Kuhn saw it happening, and
It's
that the beauty. Like the director talked about it being a real risk having a 4-year-old as the perspective character. Like, can audiences relate to Coon because he whines a lot because he's 4?
well,
But
yeah.
like,
It's like he's 4. He just like his life has been rudely interrupted by the entrance of another human. Of course, he's gonna act like that.
exactly. And I think because our we have there's a trope in fiction called the unreliable narrator,
Mm.
and Coon is the most unreliable narrator I can think of because he's 4. Even if he thinks he's telling us the truth, he's 4, right?
It's like, what's the
Like,
truth to a 4-year-old?
exactly. And so it gives this movie a sense of what's like as adults, you and I are like, well, how can he possibly be the dog? Where Coon's like, nope, I'm the dog now. Like, just I'm the dog, now I'm not. That's how life be sometime. And that's just the way the movie is, and we have to accept it as it is. And it's frustrating until you let go. And I think putting the dog at the beginning to teach us, no, no, just let go. You're not getting any answers was such a great tactic because the rest of the movie doesn't give you any answers.
Oh yeah, like and it's the kind of thing where it's like you don't dwell on it too much. Well, you kind of do, but at the same time, it's not one of those things that's like the annoying bug in your ear that it's like I can't understand this movie because still trying to figure this out. It's like I'm rolling with this. I'm gonna roll with this. I'm gonna enjoy this. You kind of once I think when Mirai as a teenager came up, you're like, you know what, this is going to be his perspective. This is going to be there's a life lesson in this here somewhere. Do your do your thing, man. Just do your thing. Let's see what comes out of it. Because by that point, you almost kind of trust the movie is gonna deliver, and it did. It really, honestly, did.
So then we get into, as you said, teenage Mirai, and she's adorable. Like, she is so cute. Like,
Still has the
because
birthmark.
still has the birthmark, which that's how we know it's Mirai at first. And I mean, obviously we know because of the trailer, but like because she still acts like he's her big brother, even though she's like 9 years older than him at least. Like I'm
Right.
putting her at 13, she's probably more like 15 or 16, but she still acts like he's her big brother. And it's just such a cute dynamic where she's like, "Don't hit me with trains, big brother," and she's talking to a 4-year-old. Like you can literally pick him up and throw him, but she still shows him that respect of like, "You're my big brother," and it's just such an adorable dynamic. And it's all about and the movie, the internal narrative. I'm sorry, I'm gushing. I've been
Yeah.
waiting a month to talk.
Yeah.
Like,
This is a public service announcement. We do not endorse the picking up and throwing of any small children of any kind.
what about large children, like 9 or 10-year-olds? Can I throw them?
Yeah, go ahead.
Fine, yes. I've been waiting to talk about this movie for a month, John. I've been waiting so long. Um,
I could
it's
tell. You know
so
what?
good.
Yeah,
I've because I've been
it's
ruminating on this for like a month of why I love it so much. You've had like an hour.
yeah.
I
But
apologize.
no. Please go right ahead. But no, it is. But it's like it's easy to see why this is so good. And yeah, you're right. Mirai being still acting like he's a big brother at this point. It is definitely a weird dynamic because she does kind of treat him as a little brother with the tickle game, but at
Oh, which
this
is so cute.
yeah, it was.
And
But
he's like, dude,
it's
Ian.
yeah, but it's sort of like I sort of read that scene almost as it's his inner conscience still,
Hmm?
like because he knows that even at the age of 4, he
You know not
knows
to
that
hit people.
yeah, you know not to hit people. You know how to not to hit a baby with the head with a toy train. You know that, and he knows like he has to protect her and all that, and he knows that deep down. But at the same time, in the real world,
He doesn't
it
wanna.
yeah, he doesn't want to because he's 4. At that age, like like I don't know if you have like Justin, do you have like older siblings, younger siblings at all?
I have a 8-year-old brother. I remember 4-year-olds very well. They do not listen to anything you tell them.
And you probably didn't listen when you were 4 either.
I was wonderful, actually.
That is a bald-faced lie.
I will have my mother on this podcast to defend me.
Please do, please do.
Can that be a Mother's Day podcast, please?
That what your mother, you and your mother on the
Justin and
phone?
his mom talking about cartoons. I need this.
I think I would pay money to see that.
Patreon exclusive.
Yeah, and you notice, and actually, while we're on the subject, that actually does bring up another point in the movie where it's like his Coon's mom, where she tells him, "Oh yeah, we got along great. My younger brother was only 1 year younger than me. Younger than me. We were practically like twins." And you realize that was also a lie because then you flashback because then we have another Coon flashback to meeting his mom as a young girl, and she's treating her younger brother the same way Coon treats Mirai.
Which she's a little troublemaker, and I think that seeing, oh, his mom acted like a child as well, and she wasn't always like this. She grew into a mature person. I think seeing that it humanizes her in Coon's eyes. Obviously, we're humanized to her by her relationship story, but he gets the humanization of he can now relate to her.
Right, and also, and her mom was like her mom treated her like she's treating Coon. She had the same mannerisms. The whole, I'm gonna throw all your toys out and not buy you a single new one if you don't clean
Which
this up.
my single biggest problem about movies starring children is that they always use physical punishment as a part of the movie, like to
Mm.
make us sympathize. All like I can think of so many scenes where I'm like, really? Do I have to see another child getting spanked in this movie? Really? And this movie has no physical punishment for children at all.
It's like
And
still it's strict parenting, but it's also strict social parenting
exactly, it's like,
that we would now consider socially acceptable.
and especially Coon's mom, where she's like, we see her dealing with like, I yelled, I didn't want to, dealing with like, how do I raise a child, and like actually making that a question and not just that's the way it is. I just like that made me so happy because I was like, great, a movie about a 4-year-old. I get to sit through another spanking scene. Like, I don't need to see this trauma in my life. But it didn't, and I was so appreciative. I'm probably the only reviewer that was like, thank you for not including this.
And
But it
every
meant the
other
whole
viewer's like, well, can't you beat the child with a belt or something? Come on.
exactly. It just it made me so happy to see them eschew that entirely, which to me just makes this a movie that's going to have more lasting appeal.
Hmm.
Like in
Because
the next
it's
20 years, we'll still be watching it and not be like, oh, that's problematic.
yeah, I mean, and
I
also
think it's
yeah,
going to
especially
hold
now
up
that
well over time.
right, and especially now that we know, that spoiler, you're not supposed to spank your kids.
And
But
even
it's
if people today think, yes, you should, I feel like in 2030, like, I feel like we're nearing the end of that cusp. And in
mm,
20, 30 years, it's going to be like, no. And so when we look back on movies of our era, it's like, ooh, that's not good. But this movie, I think, is very forward thinking in that.
right. And yeah,
And
and also I think what it is, and also it is, but it's more the point though. It's like it's like he started empathizing with his mom a little
mhm,
bit. He did empathize, like he learned, okay, I shouldn't act like this around Mirai. And I think he learned that the main problem though I had with some of those scenes, this is like the
mhm.
one complaint of this movie. He real Twice he realizes this. He realizes, and he does mellow out. He does calm down. But then we shift immediately to back to real life, and he's back to this sort of. I don't want her. I hate you, mommy. I hate you, daddy. All that.
Well, he's
I'm like,
4. I
yeah, I
felt
know.
like
It's like I should understand. Like I should understand the fact that he's 4 and all. But at the same time, I'm looking at this going, but this just happened twice. It's like this is really too quick. And it's like it's the
Mhm.
same. It's the same thing. It's like the same. It's we're going. I was worried that we're going to go through the same motions over and over again. Just in new character, new fantasy sequence, realization, crying, new character, new sequence, fantasy realization. I was getting worried it was going to start getting into this
Mhm.
pattern, and
And
it
it
was just
did
an excuse
kind
to
of go there a
it.
little, but not as
They
much as I
they
thought it would.
held the last scene with the train station. They backed off, and I was very happy. I was like, okay, thank God we're not doing this again.
Well, I mean, think about a 4-year-old. It's like they get out of timeout. Are you going to do that again? No, I've learned my lesson. 2 seconds later, they're doing it again. And I
Maybe
think
not two
it's
seconds,
like,
but it's like that. Maybe the rest of the day
no,
they're a
no,
lot more
no, no,
cagey.
it's 2 seconds, my friend. It's literally they walk off to do the thing. I have seen this with my own eyes. But it's like, I like that, he didn't instantly learn his lesson. He had to, like, I think it ultimately took him to, and we're gonna get to that before we get too deep in. What I would argue is the most important scene for exposition is the family dinner where the grandma's there, and the grandma is the exposition queen, and I didn't realize it until like the end of the movie because
Yeah,
she talks about the importance of the dolls. Like she starts spouting old wives' tales about like, well, every day you don't put the dolls away is another year that the girl won't get married, which ultimately is why Mirai comes back because dad forgot to put the dolls away and now she
it's
really
like
likes the boy. And which, oh, that was so adorable that she's still flustered over it.
yeah, I know. It's like
So precious.
it's like you're a teenager. It's like
That's
but
why
it's
I'm like,
like oh yeah, it's one of those things where it's like you think that you should have outgrown it at that point. But then also when you're a teenager and you're like, oh, that's superstitious.
and I'm
Put
like,
those
how
dolls.
long did the
Can you
dad
put those
wait?
dolls away?
Like, what if he waited like 3 weeks and it's like, oh, 21 years. Oh,
It's
ooh.
like I'm not gonna get married till I'm 50.
Yeah. It's like, no, no, I want to get married like in 5 years. Like, no, no.
Like
But
put the dolls away. Put the dolls away.
and so the most innocuous part of that conversation is them talking about the mom being like, is it true that granddad the store's like the granddad raced the grandma
Yeah,
and or Coon's great grandfather, the mom's grandfather,
yeah.
raced his great grandma, and it's like who if he wins, she
They
marries him.
marry,
And Coon's grandmother's like, no, that's just an old story. And she's like, oh, I wanted that to be true. It's so cute and romantic.
and it's like,
And
but
then
he
we
had a bum
stop talking
leg.
about the great grandfather for like an hour.
And he gets he
And
gets a he gets his own scene too.
then we go back. Yeah, then we meet the great grandfather. And this is one of those was it reality? Was it fantasy? Because Coon thinks it's his dad as a teenager. It's not. It's
Mhm.
his great grandfather. And riding motorcycles. And that honestly is my favorite
Oh yeah,
fantasy scene is like him with his great grandfather because it's one of those this could he can't like his great grandfather's dead at this point and
right.
so he can't have this and then gets back to the current present real world whatever and in the photo album he sees the picture and
Sure.
he's like isn't that dad and she's like no it's your great grandfather remember we went
It's
to
like
his
that's
funeral
dad.
last year which they say at the beginning of the movie they went to the funeral last year like the movie
Right.
pays off so well its internal logic despite being so fantastical is so solid
Oh
and
yeah.
so
And also
it,
that scene, and I think again one of the better things that I see. Well, first off, the dad just look the great grandfather looks really cool, and you could really
oh it's
tell it
so
was
cool
like you could tell it was the 50s. But also they kind of sepia tone that scene a lot
they
too.
did
It's this little touch, but that little touch makes it work so well.
and then we get into the train station and how long did it take you to realize that was teenage Coon
It took me a while because honestly, my first thought was that was going to be like the dad. I was
no,
like,
as
okay,
soon
well,
as I saw him being like, ugh, you're such a brat, I was like, that's him, isn't it?
he's an emo.
Because Coon wouldn't be like, Coon will always stay a sarcastic little butt. And he did. And that's why Mirai deals with him so well, because it's like, oh, that's just you. You are just that sarcastic little butt. It's just now you're 4 and you're adorable.
It's like,
Like,
and then when you're a teenager, you'll stop being adorable. Though to be perfectly honest, I actually thought it was his father in the beginning because I know, it didn't pan that way, but I was thinking, it's like, okay, well, because in my head I'm going, let's see, well, great grandfather would be the 1940s. That's fair. Dad could be alive in the 1980s, so yeah, he might have been a Gen Xer. Like Gen Xers were kind of like this, I
Hmm.
guess. So it's like, yeah, this is possible. But then the modern train comes by, and it's like, wait a minute. Oh wow, okay, that's neat.
Yeah, and so then we get to the train station, and let's get through the train station because as good as the train station is, I love that final scene even more
Oh
after the
yeah.
train station. That I knew this movie would make me cry. I'm like, director of Girl Who Left Through Time, I'm going to cry. And I didn't know when. And I was like, wow, I'm not going to cry at this. Good job, Justin. Your emotions are stable. You are very mature, holding yourself in. This is the first movie in like a year you didn't cry. And then that last scene, and I'm like, oh, nope, there goes that. Back
Yep.
to the tears. But so let's talk about the train station because I know you love the train station
I
scene.
I did. And in this curious way, I've just started realizing, what is it about little kids and trains? Feels like every little kid I know, myself included, at some point was in love or is in love with trains.
One of those aforementioned traumatic scenes for me as a child was in an episode of Thomas the Tank Engine. So, I mean,
Well, what scene was that?
oh, it's one where I can't even remember the episode or the train. They're at like the scrapyard and there's fire and giant claws of death.
Was that from the
And
movie?
no, this was just a random episode I had on
See,
VHS and
Fire
I
Claws.
had nightmares
Oh, is that the
about
one?
this
Is that the
scene.
one with Rusty and Stepney?
Probably. Like
That
I'm
was
talk about
atmospheric.
the train station scene as I try to find this to
As
exercise some
as we talk
demons.
about as we talk about Thomas the Tank Engine. But no, the train station was, well. First off, I don't know. Like, I wish I knew what train station that was. Actually, because that had to be based on a real place. But first off, the design of the station, and again, the camera work to show how small it was in comparison to everything else, was fantastic. Like, it really gave you the sense of bigness, just how many people there were, how sprawling this is, and just how small he was and how lost he was because wasn't because no one was around him. And then we get to the lost and found parts where he sees all these body doubles of his parents, and they all have these messed up eyes and messed up face, and it just makes it like just more macabre. Where it's like he thinks he's found them, but they doesn't, and he sees all these kids finding their parents. When he gets to the missing child's booth, and you see
Ooh.
a completely different looking animation style. It looked almost stop motion. Almost. It might have
Like
been.
this movie blended 2D and CGI so well.
Oh yeah, like yeah, it's actually pretty funny because Mamoru Hosoda, like because after the movie they did a director's, they showed his interview at Cannes Film Festival.
Oh,
He said,
lucky.
yeah, he said, I added a little CGI in there. I don't know if anyone noticed. I was like, oh, we noticed, but dude, you did it well. Like it
Like
fit
we're
great.
not mad, but we noticed.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, but we can get to that a little. I can get to the interview a little later though, because it was a good interview. But basically, it's like the train guy it's still robotic, but it was still like really just like creepy. Like because he's talking like an android's like, what is the name? What is your mother's name? And he's 4, and again, the kid's
He's like,
4.
Mom.
It's like, his name's it's my mom. What's your dad's name? It's my dad. Do you have any
Yo,
siblings? Yukio. We don't
dogs don't
accept
count.
dogs. Don't count. I'm like, well, first off, how did he know it was a dog? Never mind. I actually thought to myself, wait, how do they know if it's a dog?
Oh, that's so
Never mind.
cute. You're still applying logic.
Yeah, I know. I'm trying to apply logic. I'm like, and then after like it took me 2 seconds to realize, forget it. I'm not supposed to figure out this. There's a clock dude walking around, and I'm like a clock guy walking around, like the time's ticking away. And they said, we don't have enough information. You're going on the train to Lonely Land. I'm like, Jesus, this is brutal. But at the
Like,
same time, but then again, on a sort of psychological level, if you're 4 years old and you're lost in just a giant place at all, like be it like maybe a Costco, a ballpark, anywhere really, it's a traumatic, frightening thing. I mean, you don't know if you're ever going to see your parents again for
boy,
like.
I got lost in a Target at 12 and I was frightened. Last I'm
Wow.
never going to see them again. And like, dude, that's my ride.
Yeah,
I
it's
live
like,
20 minutes from here. I ain't getting home.
how do I get home from Target? Yeah. Weirdly enough,
I
I
just
wasn't.
wanted to look at the Bionicles.
Well,
There was a new one.
that's a legitimate reason. It can move. It has a swingy scythe. But I guess I was a little different because I get lost in a Costco and I didn't realize I was lost till my dad told me not to wander off. He had to go looking for it. I was like, oh, I was lost? I was staring at the chicken. But yeah, I got lost so easily as a
Yeah, it's one
kid.
of those kids often don't know they're lost. They're just because they're so enthralled, but like when you know you're lost, it's terrifying.
Yeah, I'm actually still like that. Like if I'm in a new city and I'm just like, or or even my own home city of Boston, I'll be walking down like Newbury Street or going through Copley Square. I'll just be staring at the windows, and then I look up and realize, oh crap, I'm supposed to turn five streets ago. Oh, where am I? Where am I? Whip out my phone, but I can whip out my phone now. But when you're 4, you think you're never going to see your parents again because you're lost and you're tired and you're
Mm-hmm.
scared, and you think that this is your life now. You are going to live in a train station,
And then we
and
get to the platform.
then we get to the platform. Holy mother of Miyazaki, that was nuts.
That was such a good. That's the climax of the film, and it's so good.
It was the seeing the train. First off, seeing the train come up is, I'm not gonna say nightmare fuel, but I bet if I was 5 years old watching this, I'd be like, that's I'm not sleeping tonight. That's a nightmare train, and it was wonderfully animated too. That's the CGI. That was CGI
Oh
mixed in
yes.
stunningly well, and it worked brilliant. Like I remember when I watched, was it the Hey Arnold Jungle movie last year, and pretty much everyone on the pod, that's available on the Anime Movies pod, by the way, we all complained when they used the CGI because it was just done so horrifically awful. Here, fantastic.
This was just. It was so beautiful, and I think just this is the moment where the deep down finally comes like out to the surface of like, oh, Mirai's like legitimately in trouble. I need to do something.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like he has to actually be, and that's what he says. Who they ask, who are you? And he yells, "I'm Mirai's big brother." And it's like,
And that's the moment he finally like comes to accept who he is as part of the family. And that's what this whole movie is about. Is not just your individual identity, but where you fit in your family.
oh, absolutely. And also, it's sort of when the penny drops and you realize that things aren't always going to be about you anymore. You're part of you're part of this group. It's you and everybody else, and this is your little sister. You two, like, his job is to protect her. That's your job. Like, you are supposed to protect your siblings, particularly your younger siblings. And this is when it was like, and what is this? He's part of a long chain in the family, in humanity, and it's kind of empowering though in a way though too, when he realizes that, because he realizes that there's a lot there to be the bigger brother.
And then we get to my absolute favorite scene in the movie, the family tree.
Oh my goodness. And it felt, it kind it was, and that was so interesting because you thought it was gonna be like a literal tree. Like it's
It
gonna be like
was a
each
tree.
yeah, it was in the beginning, but then they go in and it's like they walked into like, it felt like it was something right out, like I was in the inside of the computer in Code Lyoko.
Have you seen Girl Who Left Her Time?
I have not.
Watch
Yes.
that movie. The scenes where she falls through time, the way that time around her looks so similar to the family tree. Where I'm like, that's where he got his idea of it, I think. And I'm not even mad because it's such a beautiful, like, all of the white space with them, like the strips of images and
Like the brackets.
yes, yes, that the use of negative space, like I love it. I loved it in Who Left Through Time, and I loved it here. I'm like, please, if this is the way you always portray time travel, I am okay with it. Like it's your look of time travel, and I love it.
It looked to me, yeah. I mean, and that and it's amazing because it's like, because if it gave the sense, you're peak. It's not like you're jumping into a whole new time period. You're just sort of taking quick
Mhm.
little peeks at all these moments that made you that basically are the reason you are who you are and where you are. All those little tiny moments.
My absolute favorite part, absolute favorite part of this entire movie. We see the great grandfather in the war bloodied leg, like we know he's hurt, and then we see the race, and the race was real, and we see that it's not quite the way we heard it was, where she takes off and he's limping and like he can barely walk, and she stops just before the finish line and lets him pass her because she loves him,
And
and
was
it's that is the moment I started crying my eyes
yeah,
out.
that was
That broke
adorable.
me. And it's like, if I think you hear Mirai who's like, if that bullet had gone an inch to the left, you wouldn't be here.
And if he,
If your great grandmother hadn't have let him win, you wouldn't be here.
mm,
Like, all of these moments led up to you being who you are, and you're going to lead to even more moments. Like, and it's just it's and then we see her with older Coon, and it's just like, yes, like this is what we've been building to. It's not just little snippets, but him finally understanding his greater place, not just in his immediate family, but his extended family. Because as we know, Asian culture's extended family is a lot more important than it often is in the West. Like, that's just
un,
a
unless you're an Italian, believe me.
true. Well, like, you know what I mean? Of like, it's a
Oh yeah,
lot more common to, still see your great grandparents a lot more frequently than like a lot of like I'm American. My great grandmother lives in Las Vegas for some reason.
you actually still have a great grandmother?
She, unless I have a phone call I need to make, I think I do.
Wow, that's
Like, say
actually
that in the night, like she's like 90 something, living in the suburbs of Vegas in the middle of the desert and still kicking. Goes to her
that's
favorite Mexican restaurant every week. Like,
that's amazing.
I got to meet her once in my life because I got to go to Vegas when I was 11. But I live in Virginia. Like, going to Vegas was not in the cards, but that's a whole tangent. The point
I
being,
mean, well, now that you're 21, you got a ton of reasons to go to Vegas.
back then, my mom's like, "You're going to Vegas," and I'm like, "Pinball Hall of Fame, you say?" And she's like, "Fine, take you to the Pinball Hall of Fame."
Wait,
My
the
dad was a
Pinball Hall of
national
Fame's in
bowling.
Vegas?
Yes, it is.
Okay, I gotta go back. I missed.
My dad was a bowling competitor. Went to a national championship. It happened to be in Vegas. Whole family went. Stayed at the Circus Circus. It was amazing. Point is, also, it's where I found my favorite candy bar that's so hard to locate. If anyone wants to donate Rocky Road candy bars to me, I'm 100% accepting donations. Um, but the whole point is he finally understands his place, not just in like his immediate family, but the greater sense of family. And I think seeing the family tree of like generations and generations and generations, like that idea is so ingrained. And I read an interview with Hosoda where he's talking about this and how like family is so important, like to him and his family and the culture, and just seeing that, I think I, I think it's an idea and a value we understand. I just don't think we put into practice as much often today. But it's so beautiful, and like that's the moral of the story. Is not just like be nice, but like you're part of something bigger than yourself, and
Right.
it's bigger than you can ever imagine. And I think that's just I think it's such a unique moral of not just family sticks together, but the grand sense of family, not just the people in your house, but like how far back it goes and how far forward it will go.
And
And it's a
and part
heady concept for a 4-year old.
and also even just the heady concept of and it's like these all these like very small tiny moments
Mm-hmm.
that made up this chain, and which could so easily go completely different. Like, yeah, it's a trope, I know it's a trope that's been used a lot, but when I was listening to that, I'm think when I walked out of the theater, I was walking to the bus stop, I was thinking about that a lot, and I sort of reflected on my own family's history in a way. And what I found out was, and I remember a story that my grandfather told me. He lived to the very young age of 101. Um, yeah. And here's the thing, he was still living at home until like the last 3 months too, which is amazing. But the story goes, and he told this to me when he was like 15 years ago, how he was hiding in a barn in Belgium during the war, and it was him and his team. It was hit by a bomb, and I think it was only him and like one other person survived, because he must have been hiding, because he was like in like under a hay bale or something. And he said, he's like, I don't know how that happened. Maybe my mother was looking out for me, but somehow I survived that. And it leaves you realize, like, had he not hidden at that right time, wow, none of us in this room are here right now, which is
Yeah.
it's a little frightening to think about, but it's like these like moments. It's like, and in my own personal life, actually, last 2 years ago, I stayed late for class at school, and so I was like, oh no, I missed the van. I have to wait 20 minutes now for the next shuttle bus. I get on the shuttle bus. Some girl walks up to me and says, oh, what's the pin on your coat? And I said, oh, I had like 10 pins on my coat. And it was one that was an Egyptian pharaoh because it belongs to my Elks Lodge. I was like, oh, this is my Elks Lodge. We dated for a year. It was like, and I realized, had I not been on that van 20 minutes late, I would have had one of the best years of my life with this girl.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, so it really makes it seem like, you know, I don't want to get too like too religious here, but like maybe maybe there is a reason of everything. Maybe something does guide us. And in Mirai in the movie, it's like sometimes every little things happen. Sometimes it's fate, sometimes it's luck, but if those little things don't happen, history
Mm-hmm.
does change. And the importance of family and that connection was, I mean, I relate because like I see my aunts, I see my uncles, I see my cousins a lot. Like a lot of them still live here. They have
Mm-hmm.
just such a great connection. But at the same time, like the being part of this long chain that goes back, God knows how long, and just all these moments that make up yourself, and having that theme in a kids movie of all places, and having it done in I think a way that I think like a 6 or 7 year old will understand. Like I still think like you
Yeah.
could watch that as a kid and you'd understand it. And
Well, I
when
mean,
you
the
can
whole
become,
point is that Coon does comprehend it, and
oh
so it's designed to be something that a 4-year-old can comprehend.
yeah, oh yeah, by the way, the thing about that grandfather of mine, he actually met his great grandson before he passed away too. He was like 2, and I'm like, that kid's gonna. Then we got a picture. It's like, I wonder if he's gonna remember meeting his great grandfather. Like he's 3 years old in this picture. I
Mm-hmm.
wonder if he's going to remember that because that's something not everybody gets a chance to. That's why I was amazed. That's when you told me like, you're 21. You got to meet your great grandma. That's amazing.
She's telling you, man, it's the Mexican food. It's keeping her alive.
Tacos
But like,
keeps the elderly alive.
and I think like to me a takeaway, and it's not explicit in the movie,
No.
but like Coon never talked to his great grandfather. Not Coon's fault. He was 3. Like he was still learning the whole talking thing.
It was yeah.
I know my grandfather, his family had been fighting in the American military. Literally, I have an ancestor who fought at Valley Forge with George Washington. Like the men
Nice.
in my family were military men for 6 generations. And then he had all girls, and none of them went into the military in any capacity. And it's like, I'm not in the military. I'm his oldest grandson. Like, my little brother's 8. Like, he may not, if he goes into the military, my grandfather may not live to see this. He's seen this legacy of his family end, and he seems okay with it. And it's like, I want to talk to him and know, like, what does this mean to you? And it's one of those things of, like, talk to your family while they're alive, learn their story. Because, like, Coon's great grandfather, like, I want a whole movie of that man now. And I think the whole point of this is, like, everyone in your life, everyone in your family is not just a mom or a great grandfather. They had a life before their current role. I think that's the whole point of the mom flashback is
Mm.
she wasn't always a mom. She was a kid. And seeing that, learning to see your family as more than just the family member that they are is to me a crucial part of growing up. And I think it's something that you may realize a little earlier with like your parents, but
Mm.
like when you're like 20 and your parents start talking, a little less authoritative to you and a little more as like a friend, and it's like, whoa, I you're a person. I think it's
Yeah.
harder. I think it's rare to get that with like a
And
grandparent, but it's like
and also I
ask
think
those questions.
it's like you learn, and he learned with his mom as well. It's like the real story of like his mom, because it's like you think of your mom, she'll tell you like, oh, I got along with my siblings great.
Yep.
And they'll say that. I think if you ask your parents, they'll probably say that too. Like they
Oh,
got
my
along
mom
with
would tell
their
me how great she was. That's why I asked my grandmother those questions.
yeah, and then you realize no, no, they weren't. And
No.
it's like because it's like I mean, granted, do you want to tell them like your brother was a pain in the neck? Of course not. But it was but at least not until you get older. But because they want
My
good
brother would tell him that.
yeah. But what I
His
did
uncle would
like
be like, she was awful.
I know, but it's like, but there was that one moment in the movie as well where the mom and the grandma are sitting at the table after everyone's gone to sleep, and the mom even tells the grandma, "I'm still a little sore that I never got that cat." Even though we
Yep.
learn later, it's like, she saw a cat eat a blackbird, destroy a blackbird baby, and that's what turned her off cats. But she's still like, I still wish I kind of had that cat. And they're doing this while eating a cake that I'm looking at, going, how do you make that cake? I want that cake because it was like a sponge cake and there's like blocks in the middle and it's like a jelly on top.
Ooh,
I'm looking, I'm like, how do they make
cake.
that cake? I want that cake. I want that cake.
Anime food.
Yeah, it's like why does anime food look so good? That's not fair.
This is like one of the happiest movies I think I've seen all year. Like I finished this movie and I'm like, wow, I am a happy person with a newfound appreciation for family.
Oh, absolutely.
And any movie that can do that to me is like, ugh, if it doesn't at least get nominated, you will get an article about it. Like,
Yeah, it's like, and of course the kid was, and of course, and him learning to ride a bike. He keeps falling down. He hates
oh,
how
I
his dad
forgot
kept
the bike scene with
the
the
bike.
kids helping teach him. Oh my goodness.
And in fact, that's where the great grandfather comes into play because he was saying,
Yes.
it's like, don't look down, look straight ahead. Because when you're not, the horse doesn't get scared when you're not scared. And you see him, he's like, he's scared to be on the horse. What kid wouldn't be? But then afterwards, he's like, the great grandma asks him, "Are you still scared?" He's like, "A little." And he's like, "Just look right ahead. Look right ahead. The horses accept you." And he uses that, and he teaches himself, kind of gets himself going how to ride the bike. And the kids help him. Maybe the friendliest troop of little boys you'll meet at a park dealing with a kid who can't ride a bike, first
So
off.
wonderful. Because at first I was like, oh no, the kids are going to pick on him. And then they didn't. And I'm like, this movie is so positive.
Yeah, but at the time,
It's so positive.
at the same time, looking at him, going like, really? Not one of you is gonna make fun of this kid? Not one of you? This is like no other park. This is like no park I ever visited in my life.
Have you been to Japan?
No,
Then it is no park you've ever visited in your life.
still is. Yeah, I've been watching so much anime this month. I feel like I want to visit Japan now. I should.
Don't do it expecting. I promise you, not a single magical girl will appear.
Uh,
And
well,
if they do, run.
so what? Well, thanks for ruining Japan for me.
You know,
But now it's like I know.
it's an actual place. Like I swear, there is like the way that we idolize like animeified Japan. I swear, there is some kid in like Sweden that's like, I want to go to America and be a cowboy.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Just go to and then he lands in like I don't know New York City, and he's wondering why there's no cowboys. But
I need that actually.
that would be funny. But no, it's no, but no, it is like if I go to Japan, it's like I'm going there to eat as much like sashimi and food as I possibly can, and maybe I'll get lucky and find a good anime shop. But it's
Well, depends. Are you in Tokyo? Because if you're in Tokyo, you probably can.
maybe I don't know. But that's beside the point. If I do meet a magical girl, I'll try to remain suspicious. But
Please
I think
do.
yeah. No, you'll find like there'll be an obituary in over the anime. John was abducted by a magical girl. He fell off the broom during a delivery service. May he rest in peace.
No, it's gonna be like John was abducted by a magical girl. He thought it was Sailor Moon. It was Madoka Magica. Rest in peace, John. Like, like
Yep.
things went bad. But
Yeah.
anywho, because it is 11 o'clock at night and I have to
Yeah.
drive 3 hours in the morning, we're gonna draw
Yeah.
this to a close because I have
Yeah.
a debate tournament to prep.
Ooh.
So I'm so glad this movie's finally out in America and I can talk about it. I've had my review ready for like weeks. I'm so glad I can actually tell people about this movie now. Go see it. It's so good.
But hurry though. It's probably not gonna be in theaters for very long.
And even if it's not, but if it's not, it should come to on demand pretty quick. Like
Yeah.
I feel like it will. I feel like it'll see it in theaters if you can. If you can't,
Yeah.
it should be on demand pretty quick because it came out in Japan back in like July, I think.
Probably.
I
think
expect
so.
it on DVD probably January. I expect it on demand like
Yeah.
like December.
It was released in on July 20th. Yeah, and it's now in American theaters.
Yeah, don't know how long it's gonna be in American theaters. Probably only a week or two. Go see it.
Yeah,
it's really good. It's worth it.
I
Honestly, except maybe Incredibles 2, which I adore. probably my favorite movie of the year, even keeping in mind that I've seen like Hereditary this year.
And
I
Spider-Verse and Into the Spider-Verse is not yet out yet.
Oh, that's gonna be good. I don't, it's 11 o'clock, so I don't want to talk about this, but I'm just gonna
But
very quickly say that they are now making two Into the Spider-Verse sequels from
okay.
the creators of Korra and Voltron, and
Oh, come on. Don't tell me. You're going to hurt my wallet.
I think it's Montgomery's doing an all-female Spider-Verse
Yeah,
with
I heard that.
Spider-Gwen as the lead, and then a bunch of others, and then DeSantos is doing the direct sequel.
Okay. Um,
So it's
I did
late, but yeah, your wallet's gonna die in a couple of years.
I did want to bring this up at the end because I said I would. Like the director's interview with
Yes.
with Hosoda. They aired this at the end of the film. They had his interview at Cannes Film Festival, and they asked him sort of like how Mirai came to being, what he thought about it, and also what he thought of hand drawn and what he thought of the medium as a whole. And according to him, most of this film was hand drawn. And I guess he said like there's only two films right now that are out that are still hand drawn. His and I guess some and a new one that Miyazaki is making, which I'm watching this and I remember like back in the 90s, in the 80s and 90s, like hand drawn was, status quo. The fact and he said, and he kind of lamented the decline of hand drawn animation, the rise of CGI. And he said, it's expensive, I get it, but when you do hand drawn stuff, it's the animator's own unique stamp on a project.
Mhm.
And I'm thinking, and I started to go back to some of the debates both on our Discord and also all around the internet. There's so many people complain, all cartoons now look the same. It's all Cal Arts. It's all computer. It's all yada, yada, yada. Rebel Taxi, I think even mentioned, Rebel Taxi even tried to take the middle ground and said, like, if it's still CGI, it's still hand drawn. But here's the thing. You don't get a Mirai with a computer. You just don't. You don't get Howl's Moving Castle with a computer. You don't get Kiki's Delivery Service on a computer. Hand drawn and stop motion are really lost arts, and I really love it when I see a hand drawn animation in 2018 because it feels like it feels like you're watching animation at its roots, and this is really what it was. This is animation at its core. It's unique. You know who's doing it. It feels like something. It's familiar, but at the same time,
Mhm.
it's like it's like this is this guy's thing. It's nobody else's but his. And it has that great sort of roughness to it too. Like you could tell like that one pencil mark is maybe a little off balance. This one this one thing was just a little off. But it's those imperfections that give it
Mhm.
that give it character. And it's CGI tends to be just way too clean because you can edit it really quickly, and that's what I love. And the funny part is, and the other part, he mentions what was the inspiration for this. He actually is an only child. This was not.
Really?
This was based on. Yeah, he described this. He came up with this movie watching his two children interacting, and
That's even better.
his son, who's the big brother, told him about a dream he had where he imagined his little sister as a teenager.
So this is basically Shark Boy and Lava Girl done well,
Yes,
where the director's like, "Ooh, I'm gonna make a movie based off my young child's dreams," but
I,
this one actually is a good movie.
yeah, that's what he said. And he based it around that. Yeah, he kind of based it around that. He based the great grandfather around his wife's grandfather. So
Aww.
he drew a lot. Yeah, so he's drawing a lot. So he didn't experience this, but he said it's interesting to see this through another kid, just through the lens of his children, seeing the sibling thing that he never got to have. And I'm the
Mhm.
same way. Like I was technically an only child. I had four sisters, but they had all moved out by the time I was born. So I never got to have a younger sibling around. I never got to have an older sibling live with me. So seeing, but a lot of people I know had siblings, and they were like this, and it was like that. There was the tension. So I got where you're coming from. It's seeing that really is. And it's one of those things where I wish, like, I do kind of wish I had a little brother because it's that sort of unique, even though if it's like has its roughs and tumbles and its turns, and if I had a younger brother, I would probably be like Kuhn. I'd be like, can you return him? I don't want him. I want to be all by myself again. Because I enjoyed being an only child personally, but at
Yeah.
the same time, it's like, but as you get older, you realize it's cool to have, it's probably really cool to have a brother or a sister that's around that's younger than you too, and there is a special bond, and Kun and Mirai. Kun learned that with Mirai through when she was a teenager. He learned that when she was a teenager, and he learned that when he protected her at the train station. And I was glad I stayed for that director's thing too, because at the same time, because there's another movie coming out where it's Miyazaki. He wants to do he's trying to try his hand at CGI, and this is about the hand-drawn animation CGI thing. He says, Miyazaki said like he was really struggling with the CGI model, and he utters a line in the trailer where it's like, I feel like I'm failing doing this, and I'm just looking there going, you have nobody is ever going to accuse you of being a failure at anything. Like, you stop that right now, mister. You have you can't feel sorry for yourself. Nobody ever gets to feel sorry you don't get to feel sorry for yourself, especially you. Like, because you're the reason why so many animators have jobs. So many people, you made so many great movies. Like, you don't get to feel bad for yourself. Everyone owes you everything.
Yeah, about the whole younger sibling, there are days where I'm like, please stop screaming at 3 a.m. Please go back to sleep. You're just constipated. I promise you're not dying. Please go to bed. And then there are days like last weekend where I was babysitting because I live at college and I was home on Thanksgiving break. My parents went out to dinner, so I babysat. And he just sat down, like, he's telling me about how kids in his class are playing Call of Duty, and I'm like, the 8-year-old's playing Call of Duty that I hate. Not because...
Why is an 8-year-old playing Call of Duty?
Just to ruin my day, honestly. But
what parent lets their kid play Call of Duty at the age of 8?
You'd be surprised. But I sat him down next to me, and I showed him Final Fantasy 15 for like 2 hours, and he was just enthralled. And I'm teaching him like video game history, and he's asking questions, and he utters the greatest thing I've ever heard this child say is, I wish this game was E10 instead of T. That way I could play. And I'm like, yes. And like 2 months ago for my birthday, he handwrites me a card, and it says, to Justin, my one and only brother. And I'm just like, I love this child so much. Like, and I relate to this movie where I'm like, I remember there are days where I'm like, please take this little monster back. Like, one time when he was learning how to crawl, he crawls over, spits up in between my toes, and crawls away. And I'm like, cool. When do we return it?
Can I punt him like a football now, please?
He's finally old enough I can lightly do wrestling moves on him, and it's wonderful.
And then there are days where it's like he has a bad dream, he wants to crawl into bed with you, and you'd let him.
Oh yeah, like there are days where I'm like, no, this is mine, and no one can hurt it. Like, this is mine.
Yeah. So yeah, let's wrap up.
Let's go to bed. I need to drive in the morning 3 hours to a debate tournament, so I need sleep.
Yeah, and so, you could delete my little Miyazaki rant. It doesn't really matter. I just wanted to get that off my chest.
No, it's fine. That's it for this episode, folks. Find all the info on this podcast at overlyanimated.com. Join us on Discord to text chat about animation at overlyanimated.com/Discord. Support us via Patreon at patreon.com/overlyanimated. Thanks to all our current patrons. Oh, God, I'm tired. Patrons, especially our patron of the podcast, John, a.k.a. Johnny Bravo. Then, where is it in the thing? Okay, and thanks as always to our Patreon executive producers, John, Ryan, Steve, Alex, and Hugh. Anything you want to plug? Anything coming up?
We have Ruby coming up later this week, and starting next month, guess who's back? Steven Universe,
and
Voltron. So it's gonna be we're gonna wrap up 2018 with a bang.
Wild ride to the end.
Well, you guys are wrapping up 2018 with a bang, I should say.
And I just posted my Mirai review again in the description, and also I just posted my kind of farewell to Steven Hillenburg, who passed away this week. Go read that. It's me crying my eyes out for like 500 words.
Yeah,
it mean a lot.
Oh, also, if you are patrons, the first round of OVs are out, so vote. And if you aren't a patron yet, become a patron so you can vote for top moments of the year.
Right, the nominations open only to patrons, and then the general voting, I think, opens up to everyone, right?
Yes.
Is that how we do it? Awesome. So, not too late to get on that. Become a patron. If you have strong opinions that you want known, not too late. Become a patron. Get in on that while you can. Yeah, I think that wraps up this episode. Thanks for staying with me so late, John.
No problem. It's great. It's great.
Awesome. All right. Thanks for listening, guys, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
Take care.